makes me a dull boy. All work and no play makes me a dull boy. All work and no play makes me a dull boy!
So, you guys might have wondered where the hell this has been. Well, there's been a couple reasons that this has taken as long, but before we get to any of those, special thanks goes out to Logic Pony and Golden Fox this Sunday.
And I read some of the chat logs that were screen shared involving wanting to be someone's girlfriend or boyfriend or something like that, which is an absolute creepy thing to do. I was then informed that there were multiple accounts that this dude has made, and some people believe he may be a pedophile. I can't put my finger on it yet because I don't know the ages of who were involved with this guy.
I think this Sunday. Logic and Golden Fox brought to my attention, presumably, this individual is 18. Here is a link to this comment in the description and his DA and Twitter. He goes by Blazing Solistus on DA. Be forewarned, there is some graphic content on the Twitter, I think perhaps as well as the DA. Here is Neo Notes on YouTube, same individual. He also goes by Darkstorm on his secondary Twitter account, where he may be contacting you after you block him. Neo Notes is a persistent little bugger, and here is his third Twitter account that we all know of, that we now all know of, called Darkstorm. Here is Ruza Williams, where Williams asserts that Stealth Pony, that's our lovable Neon Notes here, has multiple accounts, as well as asserting that Neon Notes is a pedophile and a harasser. Now, between the ages of 15 and 18, legally I don't know beyond a legal certainty if Neo dipping down to 15 is legal. It depends on state. Stealth Pony, Neon, whatever his name goes by, whatever he calls himself today, I don't know if he classifies as a pedophile. Age of consent laws in some states of the Union supposedly do dip as low as 15 in some states. The keyword in that statement is age of consent. There are 3 no's in a fairly short period of time, like literally right on top of each other. At best, at very best, you're being annoying as hell. At worst, well, Rosa has already said it for us. Neon, since you're young and stupid, I'm going to give you the same deal I gave to Winged Fusion. You knock off your shit, and you can go on your happy, merry little way. I suggest for your own well-being that you stick to 18 and up, and I suggest when someone says no to you that you listen. I suggest after someone tells you no, you don't pull a Vita and start telling everyone significantly around them to go kill themselves. Wait, I found this. It appears that you told a 14-year-old that age doesn't matter. To the best of my knowledge, this isn't legal anywhere in the United States, so if anyone has any fun stories about Darkstorm or Neon or any of the other fun accounts that this individual has, by all means, share them down below, and there is a link to the individual's IRL picture in a Google Doc. Before we move on, I think I showed this on a stream, so there will be a link to a DA journal on an individual by the name of Antonius150. There is a link in the description to a DA journal on pretty much everything that you need to know. My good friend Instepius, as well as Eden Gray, will be doing a collab covering this topic. I will include a link to Antonius's Twitter as well. I highly suggest showing caution. It's very graphic. It is not YouTube safe in the least. He seems to pursue people as low as 14, which is regretful. In his country of Italy, I'm not sure about that legality. I do suggest that you look up the age of consent in Italy on your own. I hope I'm wrong about it being as low as 14. So now that we have all those pleasantries out of the way, I more or less have to scrap a lot of How Not To Brony because of, well, Peace won the day in previous weeks. Due to the back and forth between myself and my ex, going by the names of Cookie, Eden, Buttons, things came to a head. We had a sit-down conversation, and things are neato mosquito now. Now, I see some hands in the audience. Well, you guys went tooth and nail for 4 months, especially if you're familiar with everything behind the scenes that we're not going to list here. I do like to look back at bad situations and try to see how things could have been handled differently or improved upon. Was there anything that could have been wrapped up sooner or faster with less grief and less heartache? I think I drive myself nuts this time trying to do that here, so there were a lot of people who attempted to throw water on the fire. Apparently, it just had to be handled by us. It's been a week. Everything's still chill and neat and calm, and I'd like to state while I'm getting along with my ex. Just for example, we're 4 episodes into watching Disenchanted together. I might be glad to help you if you're interested in having a sit-down conversation, but I will not be brokering a peace treaty on anyone else's behalf, on what may well be 3 to 4 dozen different people with their own unique grievances. Thing is, I had to do it myself. I do appreciate everyone who tried to do it for me. On risk of pain to death, I am super duper grateful for that kid Douglas who went above and beyond. And if you need anything, Doug, you know how and where to contact me. That's gonna get me a couple of dirty looks from 2 of my exes and potentially Leo Convoy, my current moral compass. And if you find that horrifying, you should. But if you still have your hang-ups, as far as I know, all's been quiet on the Western Front for 7 days, and that's pretty fucking solid. As to the rest of the things that have been cancelled, this is Vita. I basically had 90% of the video explaining how I felt that Vita would not be able to sustain a position as a police officer, which is the line of education that he is currently seeking. He also cancelled his project on Midnight Chimes to focus on his education, so I guess that shows a level of commitment. He did a stream last week and I popped in. Now, if you're from Top of the Barrel, that's Vita's chat, this part here is going to be where you're going to want to listen. This is politics. If you couldn't figure out why I was there, I got some bad news for you. Vita is smarter than you. One of the areas of concern on your end, if you dislike or disapprove of me, having to talk to me publicly might be construed as a tacit approval of me of my actions. The counter and right political argument, if Vita were here, would say, if Vita intended to be a police officer, if Vita couldn't stomach talking to me for 5 to 10 minutes on my super best behavior as well as Vita's, he'd never be able to handle a hostile situation and what no doubt would probably be far more irreputable individuals. Now, since he did, I then in good faith could not say it would be impossible that Vita under stress and pressure, that it would be impossible to deal with criminals, suspects, and the mentally deranged. Now, me and Vita on our best behavior isn't a great bellwether for handling a job for 8 to 10 hours, maybe in a more potentially fatal, hostile circumstance. Additionally, Leo told me that Vita does want to help the community. Now, whether you buy that or not, this would have been the next public measure to show that Vita wouldn't just be able to say something, that he would be able to have some follow-through with it. Whether you like it or not, I am someone of note or influence in the community, which leads us to higher up the chain, which may well have been Vita's end goal. Now, not needing me to deal with bigger people in the community, as good as the stream went, as far as it went for me anyways, and I can say talking to Vita in person at the time, things went off without a snag. Let's paint this in a hypothetical on what Vita potentially might have wanted. Just for an example, let's say that Lightning Bliss had shown up, not saying whether she would or wouldn't have. Would she have been able to have gone in and had a civil conversation with next to no fuss? Well, maybe. Here's the counter-argument on why either wouldn't need or want to. Dark Edge. Vita had been cheeky to a point where his response on that whole matter was that he didn't have to cover Dark Edge knowing that I would, which leads the question, what service are you providing exactly? What can Vita do that I can't? He has more access to his people than I do, that's true. But as they're quick to point out, and he's quick to point out, it's not a hive mind. Meaning, even if you do convince Vita in good faith and he believes you, and was cool with everything, it wouldn't do much to ensure the over 30 to 40 members of Top of the Barrel would cease and desist in giving you a headache, in public or in private. Whereas if someone from Limbo is giving you a headache, I'm all ears. Hell, I've been receptive to even Horse News' complaints about ZD, but I won't go into specifics out of tact. And while we're at it, if anyone has any complaints about any members of Limbo, there's a comment section down below. Let's say hypothetically anyone had any complaints about, Angel Heart. Again, hypothetically speaking. So, by all means, public, down below, comment section. Speaking of having a reasonable, rational word, the biggest counter-argument of having one with Vita is he's not the best guy in his group to have that conversation with. If you needed to have a level-headed discussion with someone from Team Son of a Bitch, I'd highly recommend Leo Convoy. Lord knows I do. He's at least respected on some level in his own circles, as well as mine, and why I do feel he's a little too happy to get his hands dirty, even for me. And believe me, it's nice to have someone around like that. His heart and head tend to be in the right place, or at the very least, the right direction. Besides, if I know about it, Leo likely already does. there is the unfortunate side to all of this that, well, there's not much really going on, unless there is some major, massive powder keg waiting to go off again, and yet again I'm blissfully unaware, and I'm 5 minutes away from ground zero. I've made somewhat peace with Patchwork Heart. With Vita, at the very least, things seem to have quieted down, or he's just gotten busy, and the major issues that I've covered here usually take between 2 to 3 minutes to brush up. It's somewhat become of a struggle, and damn do I have to start talking about Lily Pete again. Speaking of which,
I just have one question before we start. Has anyone actually screamed justice or I'll feel better as the sole reason to punish Starlight without elaborating why? No, the answer's no. Lunacorv is just too stupid to argue with things that make him angry, so he rewrites it in order to make it easier to mock. We could talk about how much of a myopic idiot this moron is some other time. The main crux of this cavalcade of stupidity is that it's pointless to punish someone if they've already realized that their actions are wrong and that Starlight is too powerful to—
using the weakest voice you can just to prove your point is beyond tiresome and tedious. It would be like some asshole who has well over 50 videos harping on the same asshole to... I see what you did there. So Josh is Lily's Lily. Very well, I guess we all needed one apparently. Speaking of which, I stand behind what I said with Pete and Buttons. I would have talked to Pete's girlfriend the moment they broke up. Speaking of festive unions, I'd like to give a How Not To Brony congratulations to Josh Scorcher, who just proposed successfully to his fiancée. I believe successfully. Oh, special shout out to Bubba Boo on DeviantArt. They drew me this amazing picture, so I bought 2 additional pieces. I'm going to try and get them some more for a new project called Dr. Wolf. Keep an eye out for Sam Outline's King of Limbo later on this week, or maybe early next week. Take care. Recently, while in touch with my ex Eden, she passed me this screenshot of ZD, Mr. Sexual Healing. I posted this in Limbo last night asking for an answer, and one never came. This isn't the first time I've heard this accusation, ZD. It is, however, from the same person. I was under the impression that you were in a relationship with a girl already. As far as I'm concerned, I've had enough. Do I think that you're a sexual pervert? Well, maybe slightly above average, but nothing illegal. I'll leave the moral policing to Leo Convoy. I do, however, think you're a weasel, a liar, a massive pain in the ass, and whether it was the incident with Photo Anon, your petty hate grudge that you've had versus Lost Narrator and Magpie, and unlike Luximus, who's too much of a bitch-made to tell you anywhere that you're insufferable, get the fuck out of my house. The other day Vita tossed you out of the barrel, and now that your stock is down, I'll never have a chance like I do now to punk kick your insufferable long-witted ass the fuck out of my house. I cannot fucking stand you. And if Vita takes you back just to spite me, I can't dream of causing him any more damage to him and all of his friends than having to deal with you, motherfucker. Now, ZD, I'm done with you. And it's not because of Buttons doesn't like you. You're an insufferable ass who called me a pedophile until I left KP the hell alone, and then started blowing me after I did. There is no amount of money, praise, or collab that would be worth putting up with yourself 1 second longer than I already have. You're a bigger letdown than Pinto, and I'd normally say thank you, fuck you, bye, but in your case, down the street, not across the road. To quote Matt Hughes to Tim Sylvia, fucker, I have enough friends, and even if I didn't, I don't need you. So what... I guess I really won't be able to get back to this to Tuesday other than doing a stream on this, which I wouldn't feel comfortable streaming while showing this guy's Twitter, because that's just how I got banned the first time, was fucking around with Twitter. Stop screen sharing, bunk.
Yeah, so it's just something that both Logic and I felt it was the best intention to spread word about, so that way, people will be aware and be on guard. Given how
either way, a result's a result.
Yeah, and given how this year has been such a mess, it's best that we keep on guard with what's happening.
No, I absolutely understand and appreciate the situation.
Oh yeah.
Between this and that fucking Zephyr guy, it's just like assholes everywhere.
Oh my god, Zephyr was just an obnoxious prick. By comparison, he's nothing compared to this fuck.
I miss just the obnoxious pricks.
Oh, trust me, if it was just that,
the stakes couldn't be lower. Wonderful. I remember that back in the day when freaking Aina would come up and tap me and Kichi on the shoulder. There's somebody bothering one of my friends. And Kichi's like, "Did you try blocking them?" No. Well, try blocking them. Sometimes that's all you have to do. I could
If only
understand
it was
why,
that simple now.
if it's somebody harassing kids or something like that, and I was like, well, if it's an absolute nobody, I mean, you could sit there and point out freaking new accounts, but if they have no stake to that account, the problem is that they could just flip over and make a new one. That's what happened with the other guy that we were covering. I could show you that one if I could remember who the fuck gave it to me. That's probably long buried.
You know, there's a thing about, with people like Zephyr. You know what I like to call those? The special snowflakes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anything about
Oh
Zephyr.
yeah, the stories I could tell about that fuck. I've had issues with him way before he reached Golden Solo.
Logic told me about this shit. Like, I found out that he was on my server, but before taking action, I wanted to, wait for him to make his move, so that way everybody else could witness it and be like, yep, there's a reason why I kicked his ass out.
Yeah.
So, it's one thing to get told about someone's track record. It's another thing to
See him in action.
Well,
exactly.
It reminded me when freaking, it's when it was me, Vita, and Fallen, and we were looking into like one of her erotic roleplay chats, and Vita got in there, and then you freaked out and left, and a couple other people, and they threw him out. But before he left, we're looking in there. I'm like, why is Crazy Pony Man in there? What do you mean he's a paying customer? And I was like, look, you could throw Vita out if you want, but I'd really suggest you get rid of that one.
Yep.
Yeah.